which he will detain a citizen under such whimsical circumstances.
The majority leader, Mahama Yariga, agrees.
Mr. Speaker, the office has been in existence for how many years now? Close to 8 years. Tell me what is really the achievement of that office. I believe that it is high time that this parliament reconsiders its decision to approve the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor. I think that we should abolish it.
The Ofuasia Yoruba Member of Parliament, Kojo Nkrumah, says the demand is right, but he wants the same anger extended to other investigative bodies.
Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, like we say in Twi, etua onyonku mua, etua diem, etua uhumu dia, etua nipem. To wait, Mr. Speaker, when it happens to somebody and he's complaining about it, you see absolutely nothing wrong with it. When it happens to you, now you complain. So, Mr. Speaker, if he wants to invite the special prosecutor to come and answer why his friend, and today he's complaining because it is his friend, but perhaps our advice would be that all the other investigative bodies that are being weaponized, which have been complained about, which they turn a blind eye and a blind ear to, maybe, Chief Whip, you should add it.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbent says the creation of that office lacked a constitutional basis from the onset.
And if you recall, during the deliberation on the OSP, a number of us stated on the floor of this House that there's no constitutional basis. We cannot continue to allocate that huge sums to the same office when we are not getting the results. This is one of the agencies we should be looking at.
The calls to abolish the office of the special prosecutor have been in conversation, but maybe that singular act of detaining lawyer Martin Kpebu is what has drawn this widespread fury and condemnation. With petitions already sent to the Attorney General, it waits to be seen what becomes the end story to all of this. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Parliament.
And following another lengthy interaction with the Office of the Special Prosecutor and verification of properties, lawyer Martin Kpebu says the OSP's actions show they have lost the plot and lost badly, insists no credible charge can be leveled against him, and the bigger question remains as to why the Special Prosecutor allowed the former Finance Minister, that's Ken Ofori-Atta, to slip out of the country.
One, they inspected my residence.
Okay.
Two, they inspected the landed property I've provided, and then they took measurements. They want to go and verify, so they themselves have taken the coordinates to be sure that the document is not a fraudulent one. Third, we inspected the surety's residence. Okay. When we made noise about it, today you don't find the soldiers there. We are abusing the military. The military are not to be used for such things. Why are we just denigrating Ghana Police Service like that? Article 200 was not made for a joke.
Okay.
I hope that day doesn't come, because I don't know what the trial will be. It's just a precautionary measure they are taking. What is that trial going to be? They've lost badly. They've lost badly. So the story remains that Kissi Ejiabin sat on his hands and allowed Ofori-Atta to run out of this country. When Ofori-Atta had 5 cases pending before Kissi Ejiabin, which leads to a reasonable suspicion of collusion. Now, the SP's allegations are closed for now, because we've made it clear that they have to show us that they've set up an independent committee. That's when next we will respond. So it will be this matter of obstruction.
Right, so let's stay on this subject and get some legal perspectives to it. Clearly, it looks as though the conversation about the relevance of the office has also come up for question. Let's go to the phone lines now. Joining us is a private legal practitioner and former member of parliament for Tamale Central, Inusa Fuseini. Honorable, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Let's decouple the individual holding the office from the office itself. I'm sure the time Parliament was debating as to whether or not to pass the Special Prosecutor's Office, you were in Parliament at the time. What do you make of the recent calls that the office be scrapped completely?
So there were legal reasons, and well, the compulsive reasons were which informed the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Mind you, at the time that the advocacy for the establishment of office was ongoing, all the anti-corruption agencies that Ghana has established since our independence were in place. So the thinking then was that the offices were not delivering to expectation, and why they were not delivering to expectation was because most of the offices were under the office of the Attorney General, and it was argued that the Attorney General, being a member of government, might find it very difficult to prosecute his own. So that was the argument that informed the creation of the office. Ghana had also signed the UN Convention Against Corruption. And so that had required that we establish a structure that would deal with corruption and corruption-related offenses. And that was our approach. MPP had taken the UN declaration or resolution to another level by putting it in their manifesto of 2016, that the way to go about it was to establish an office of they called it then independent prosecutor, because of what they thought was the reason why the Attorney General could not prosecute his own. So they needed an independent prosecutor. Parliament decided to change the name to a special prosecutor.
Right. So it is, for one part, fulfilling a UN convention that we had ratified. But the concern being raised now is that, yes, we have created the office, but its relevance and what it is expected to do has come under serious criticism. As a private practitioner and as someone who was in Parliament when this was passed, do you think that the OSP's office has achieved at least a semblance of what was expected of it?
So you have to ask some three basic questions. Was the reason that informed the passage of the law still with us? Yes, the answer is yes. The reason was that Ghana then was facing an existential threat from corruption. And so we needed an institution to deal with that. Because the Attorney General was there, but was unable to deal with that. So is the office relevant to us today? Yes, it's relevant, because corruption has escalated. Do we need an institution to deal with that? Yes. Some say we need even many more institutions, except that those institutions must work under one umbrella to deal effectively with corruption.
Right.
Is the Office of the Special Prosecutor dealing with corruption? Yes, it is. I mean, the first Special Prosecutor, Hamidu, did a corruption risk assessment, and it saved this country a lot of money. The Ajepa deal, you remember? That was where the phrase "matter separate of corruption" was couched.
Right.
The current Special Prosecutor investigated the Bianca case, you remember? And compelled them to pay back to the state a lot of money. The recent cancellation of the SML contract in downstream was motivated largely by the work done by the Special Prosecutor. And so, the work is ongoing, except that the Ghanaians are restless. They want to see more.
Okay. Right, Honorable, finally and briefly, and kindly speak out for me on this. With what that happened yesterday, the arrest, detention, and subsequent release of Martin Kpebu, and the whole brouhaha that has erupted as a result of that, what do you make of it, and where do you stand on this?
Well, first of all, you need to look at the law. I've heard many people say that the Special Prosecutor has the mandate to fight corruption-related offenses, and breaches of the Procurement Act. But Section 29 of the Act gives the Special Prosecutor and officers or authorized officers of the Office of the Special Prosecutor police powers. Section 59 makes it an offense to obstruct an authorized officer or an officer of the Special Prosecutor from the performance of his duties. And so what happened yesterday, from my reading of the statements issued by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, argues that my friend Martin Kpebu interfered with the officers of the Special Prosecutor's Office in the performance of their duties.
Right.
If he really did so, if he obstructed them from the performance of their duties, it's an offense under the Special Prosecutor's Act 959.
Okay.
And it's a misdemeanor. I mean, you can find repetitions of that offense in many other statutes. So it's a misdemeanor. Why the Special Prosecutor needed landed property is another matter. But you know that no person can obstruct an officer of the Special Prosecutor's Office from the performance of his lawful duties.
Okay. Honorable, thank you for speaking to us this evening. Honorable Inusa Hussaini is a former member of parliament for Tamale Central and also a private legal practitioner.
In more news tonight, Chairman of Parliament's Health Committee has urged medical superintendents of health facilities outside Accra to allocate part of their internally generated funds towards securing decent accommodation for newly posted medical officers as a way of motivating them to accept postings to underserved communities. It follows official reports that many medical officers have refused postings to health facilities outside the Greater Accra region, a situation that has negatively impacted health delivery in deprived and rural areas.
What doctors usually look for when they go to any place is accommodation. So if you see a doctor, he comes over and brings his letter to you, the next thing he's going to ask is accommodation. And usually it is not a very big accommodation, but a decent accommodation. And a safe accommodation. I think these are the two things that the doctors look for. So we must also look into the situation, whether the districts have made such an arrangement for the doctors that have been posted. I'm trying to get in touch with some of the doctors to see what is the situation now, because that should be the hindrance. If the district has accommodation and the doctor is not ready to go there, he has to inform us. And I urge all medical superintendents, please, as I fight for your internally generated funds to be released to you, use part of it to rent decent accommodations for your incoming doctors and other health professionals.
We're shifting our attention to another topical subject that has dominated conversations the last few days. Now, President John Mahama has attributed the poor results in the recent WASSCE to years of neglect of basic education. Speaking at the national launch of STEM Box for basic schools, he said that the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service will study the examiner's report and implement urgent reforms. He stressed that strict invigilation is here to stay and urged parents and schools to ensure that students adequately prepare for their exams.
Recently, the West African Exams Council has released the results for the last West African School Certificate Examination. And as the Honorable Minister has said, it has become an issue of great concern to government, parents, and the public at large. I was speaking with the minister, and I've asked them to do an analysis of the examiner's report to try and decipher what could have gone so disastrously wrong. It is mind-boggling that with the same teachers, the same factors in play, just from one batch to another, one batch, does so disastrously. And so we need to get to the bottom of it. But it also emphasizes the issue of foundational learning. One of the major things that has taken place in the last several years is the neglect of basic education. inability to send the capitation grants, ensuring that we have quality teachers at the foundational level, at the basic level, because it is that level that prepares the child for secondary and tertiary education. And once you don't get that level right, you will just send the child through a conveyor belt like a factory. And when it comes out at the end, it will be picked out by quality control and said that this one did not do well. And so our focus must be on foundational learning. And foundational learning means that by the time a child reaches primary school, he should be able to read properly. By the time the child leaves primary school, he should be able to write properly. By the time the child leaves primary school, he should be able to do basic arithmetic. If we're able to get our children to get these three things right, writing, reading, and arithmetic, then they have the foundation to continue into secondary education.
Now, President John Mahama has sent a clear warning to criminal networks that Ghana will not surrender a single street, community, or public space to criminals today, tomorrow, or ever. Speaking after handing over 40 armored vehicles to the Ghana Police Service at the police headquarters, he said to those who insist on disturbing the peace of Ghana, whether through armed robbery, organized crime, illegal arms trafficking, or gang activity, the law of the Republic will deal decisively with them.
Amen. Upon assumption to the reins of power and a promise to reset, his focus largely on security and how to maintain the peace of the country. A major boost to policing, law and order, and lasting peace have been on the minds of the president. For President Mahama, crime rate has seen some significant low turn despite some major concerns.
Our highways are getting safer because you've taken on the highway robbers and you have dealt with them. People who rob banks, attack people's residences, you have chalked many victories in bringing them to justice. Let me commend the CID too. In the past, there were many unsolved murders. I'm happy to note that recently, many of the murders that occurred with good police intelligence, you've been able to bring the suspects to book.
The first batch of 40 fully armored and combat ready, John Mahama sends a stern warning to criminals.
Let me state clearly, our dear country Ghana will not surrender a single street, a community, or any public space to criminals today, tomorrow, or forever. To those who insist on disturbing the peace of our nation, whether through armed robbery, organized crime, illegal arms trafficking, or gang activity, our message is simple. The Ghanaian state is ready. The Ghana Police Service is ready. The laws of this republic will deal decisively with anyone who endangers the safety of our people.
Inspector General of Police Christian Tete Yohonu touted the police readiness to combat crime without fear or favor, with a gesture being a moral booster for the men in uniform.
Okay, let's go to Parliament now. The Majority Leader, Mahama Ayariga, has criticized Ghana's continued failure to mechanize agriculture and its inability to produce sufficient food locally, lamenting the billions of dollars spent each year on food imports. Contributing to the statement on the commemoration of the 2025 Farmers' Day celebration, the Majority Leader observed that successive governments have neglected the original vision of Ghana's first President, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who constructed the Akonsombo Dam partly to support irrigation.
I don't know if the institution of a National Farmers' Day is achieving its real objectives. I don't know. As we speak, our food import still stands at over 3.5 billion United States dollars. Government policy must shift and start focusing on large-scale commercial farming. Government policy must shift and start focusing on irrigation. Government policy must shift and start focusing on mechanization. And we must understand that farming is an engineering exercise. We are talking about youth unemployment. Farming is a major opportunity, a low-hanging fruit for us to create jobs. As far back as 1963, when Nkrumah developed his 7-year development plan and constructed the Akosombo Dam, he indicated when he was addressing Parliament that there are 2 reasons why the Akosombo Dam is being constructed. One is for hydroelectric power. 2 is for agro-based industrialization. How many decades now? Since 1963, 1970. How many decades now? And we still haven't achieved this basic objective.
Well, Deputy Minority Leader Patricia PAJ and other caucus members have called for decisive action against illegal mining to protect fertile farmlands and ensure food safety.
What is important at this point in time, considering the current state in which we are in, our water situation, our galamsey situation, it is important that we adopt the best of policies to ensure that our food basket is always full and people will not go hungry in the country. I remember some time back when I was in school, the late Echampo, Kutu Echampo, who was the former head of state, introduced the Operation Feed Yourself system. Under the circumstances in which we live now, it is important that every family begins to look at a way of producing something for its family members so that food will be in abundance and everybody can eat.
In more news this evening, businesses that transport bulk cash and valuable items have up to January 21, 2026 to license and certify their operations. Failure to meet this deadline will attract administrative sanctions and revocation of licenses. This is part of the Interior Ministry's effort to strengthen the sector and prevent robberies while in transit. George Queening has more in this report.
These, among others, form new guidelines and standards rolled out by government through the Interior Ministry for the importation, retrofitting, usage and decommission of armored bullion vehicles in Ghana. This has become necessary following a series of attacks over the years. Between 2021 and 2023, 5 regrettable attacks were recorded. 3 out of these cases were fatal, leading to the death of 3 police officers.
All financial institutions and entities in cash and transit business with soft-skinned vehicles are to park them immediately and proceed to apply for the necessary clearance for retrofitting of the said vehicles at a certified retrofitting center. 2. Entities operating in the cash in transit bullion business are to cease operation henceforth and proceed to register and acquire the needed license and certification from the Ministry of Interior before operations. 3. Entities engaged in retrofitting of armored bullion vehicles for the cash in transit and bullion services are to cease operation henceforth and proceed to register and acquire the needed licenses and certification from the Ministry of Interior before operations.
Entities operating the cash in transit and bullion business have an ultimatum of 45 days to regularize the operations or risk administrative sanctions and revocation of license.
The Inspector General of Police has already been tasked to form an enforcement unit to ensure strict compliance with the guidelines. The enforcement unit will report to the implementation committee, which is duly constituted with representation from the security and intelligence agencies, Bank of Ghana, and the Ghana Coal Board. Any organization or individual found violating these guidelines will attract administrative sanction, including suspension of operational license and possible prosecution under applicable laws. Government will not compromise on the safety and security of its citizens and financial institutions.
The successful rollout of these guidelines will be followed by a phased implementation plan, including accreditation of authorized importers and retrofitters, regular inspections and compliance audits, and mandatory training and licenses.
You're still watching News 360. Stay with us. The latest in the world of business, sports, and entertainment are all coming up.
Good evening. This is Business on News 360. I am Minu Afol. Ghana is facing a dual fiscal challenge, struggling with a chronically low tax to GDP ratio, while billions of dollars are simultaneously being siphoned out of the economy through illicit financial flows. For over 2 decades, between 2000 and 2023, Ghana's tax effort has remained stubbornly low, hovering at about 12 to 13% of GDP.
Ghana's tax effort, which hovers around 12 to 13% of GDP, falls significantly below that of peer countries, both within the West African sub-region and among lower middle-income nations. At a tax dialogue organized by the Media Foundation for West Africa on improved domestic revenue mobilization in Ghana, funded by Danida through Oxfam, the dialogue was based on tax gap, illicit financial flows and revenue mobilization in Ghana. Economist at the Department of Economics at University of Ghana, Dr. Gloria Afol-Mensah stressed the need for tax gap analysis.
Tax gap is what would tell us whether our revenue system or the tax system, whether it is efficient or not. Knowing the tax gap is very important so that you can have policies that would target areas that we are not doing enough so that we can raise more revenue.
Dr. Afol-Mensah noted illicit financial flows, IFFs, in Ghana are a massive challenge, draining billions of dollars in potential revenue and undermining the country's tax base.
This $8 billion is almost 3 times what we are getting from the IMF. So there's a need to tackle illicit financial flows decisively. But then if you look at the nature of the IFFs, the actors involved, the enablers, and then the cross-border activities related to it. Clearly, there's that political twist to it. So that is where we will have to play a role to force or compel our institutions to work effectively.
Program Director at Media Foundation for West Africa, Abigail Labiode, noted the research and the related dialogue were aimed at creating a tax system that is inclusive.
Deliberate on the challenges and prefer actionable recommendations in creating a tax system that is efficient, transparent, and supportive of inclusive economic growth. We recognize that domestic revenue mobilization requires partnership between government, citizens, regulators, businesses, civil society, and communities.
Away from that, civil society groups in energy are making a case for government to reduce prices of liquefied petroleum gas for the success of the cylinder recirculation model. The CSOs argue that the model has not received the needed patronage because it was hastily implemented amidst high cost of LPG.
The cylinder recirculation module, CRM, is a distribution system in which a consumer brings an empty cylinder to an exchange point in return for a filled cylinder. The empty cylinder is taken to a bottling plant, filled and brought back to pick up by other consumers. Though the implementation began in 2024, the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah, says the module has not gained the needed traction because of the high cost of LPG.
Well, it has its bottlenecks, and I don't think that we have done enough piloting. I think we're just rushing it, hoping that it will catch up with the Ghanaian. But don't forget, the economic disposition of the average Ghanaian is such that they don't have too much resources at their disposal every single time to pick an already pre-filled bottle of a capacity. And for the existing retail model that we have, it allows people to go by 20 cedis, 30 cedis. The CRM will have a challenge of expecting people to come in with 300 cedis to pick a pre-filled bottle. And that is what I think is actually stifling its progress.
CEO of Ghana Gas Company Judith Ajoba Blay indicated measures to make the commodity affordable to increase patronage.
We have a gas master plan in existence in draft, and it's a 2016 document. one of the things we are trying to achieve in that first goal to secure Ghana Gas as an integrated gas company is to ensure that we come back to the drawing table with the gas master plan. The gas master plan was created in 2016, and between 2016 and now, a lot has happened in the gas sector, and therefore we need to bring it back to the table, look at upgrading it or bringing it to current happenings in the midstream gas sector.
The Ghana Gas Company will by June 2026 begin the construction of the second Ghana Gas plant, also known as the GPP2, to also augment efforts towards affordable supply.
Time now to take a look at how our CD is faring against other trading currencies and how some of our key commodities are also faring on the global market. That's how we wrap up the business segment tonight on News 360. I'm Minu Afo. Stay with us. We have more news updates for you.
It's now time for sports here on News 360. My name is Mutala Yakubu. Let's start off with the World Cup, where 48 nations now stand on the brink of destiny as anticipation builds in Washington, D.C., where the next chapter of global football will begin to take shape. Now, with hopes high and dreams hanging in the balance, teams from every corner of the world await the moment the draw reveals their path. Head of 3 Sports, Ore Kwampofo, is currently in Washington, D.C. and tells us what to expect on Friday.
Come out as is currently about 5 degrees Celsius, but it feels like a -3. And I'm here at the John F. Kennedy Center in Washington. Right behind me is where the FIFA World Cup draw will take place in just about 22 hours time on Friday. Final preps are currently ongoing here at the center. And the big story tonight is the remarkable list of dignitaries that would be gracing the occasion here on Friday. President of the United States, Donald Trump, President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, and Mark Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, have all confirmed their attendance for the World Cup draw on Friday. But it's not all about political heavyweights. Leading the draw is former England captain and FIFA legend Rio Ferdinand and award-winning broadcaster Samantha Johnson. Supporting them on stage is a star-studded lineup across North American sport, name you rarely see together, let alone assisting a FIFA World Cup draw. There will be 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, and then there'll be Wayne Gretzky, who is an NHL great, and Aaron Judge, who is a new Yankees superstar. All would help unveil the path of the 48 teams. Yes, you heard that right. 48 teams, making it the biggest ever World Cup we've witnessed. History is on the horizon, and on Friday, December 5, the rest of the world will learn who will play who, and the 16 host cities across the US, Mexico, and Canada will officially begin countdown to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Ore Kwampofo from Washington, D.C. at the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts for 3 Sports.
So the World Cup draw will come off tomorrow, and we'll be bringing you regular updates on all our socials at 3 Sports GH and also on TV3. Let's now do something on the continent, because Nigeria's build-up to the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations has taken a dramatic turn after captain, that is William Troost-Ekong, announced his retirement from international football. The decision coming just weeks before the tournament, and despite his inclusion in Eric Shell's provisional squad, brings an emotional close to a decade of leadership and outstanding service. The following report comes to you.
Have been hit with a significant blow just weeks before AFCON 2025 begins. National team captain William Troost-Ekong has announced his retirement from international football, meaning he will not take part in the competition despite making Eric Shell's provisional squad. Troost-Ekong made his debut for the Super Eagles in 2015 and has gone on to make 83 appearances across 5 major tournaments. The former Watford centre-back skipped Nigeria to the final of the 2023 AFCON, winning the Player of the Tournament award. He also played for them at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Troost-Ekong helped Nigeria to win a bronze medal at the Rio 2016 Olympics and has described his time with the national team as unforgettable. The 32-year-old was most recently part of the Nigeria squad that suffered agony last month after they were beaten by DR Congo on penalties in a playoff for the 2026 World Cup. In a statement, Troost-Ekong said, quote, "Today, I am announcing my retirement from international football. The last decade has been filled with commitment, pride, and unforgettable memories. Wearing the Super Eagles shirt has been more than playing football. It has been a duty, a privilege, and an honor." Nigeria will enter the AFCON hoping to win their 4th trophy, but would have to do it without the ever-reliable Troost-Ekong.
For the Super Eagles of Nigeria, Troost-Ekong would not be part of the squad, and they are looking at winning the AFCON after failing to qualify for the World Cup. That's it for sports here on News 360. My name is Mutala Yakubu.
Entertainment.
Tonight in this segment, legendary high-life musician Nane Champon has returned to Ghana ahead of the final funeral rites of his long-term collaborator and friend, Daddy Lumba. In a video shared on his Instagram page on December 3, Champon revealed that his trip was solely to honor the late icon as the industry prepares to bid him farewell on December 13. He also encouraged Ghanaians to ignore the ongoing controversies surrounding the ceremony and unite to celebrate Lumba's legacy. Touched down last night, that's what he wrote to the motherland. Let's come together and celebrate the life of my brother, Daddy Lumba, he said in a post. Nane Champon and Daddy Lumba, famously known as the Lumba brothers, remain one of Ghana's most celebrated music duos. And celebrated music duo Keche have attributed their longevity and continued relevance in the music industry to mutual respect, maintaining boundaries in each other's personal lives, and never letting money come between them.
And we know we want to achieve something. Look at us coming together to build a brand like Keche. At our level where we've gotten to, and we know how difficult it is. I mean, pushing a brand to be accepted, to become this big in our country where we come from is very difficult. So why would we make some little things like money? I say little things because if we make money become an issue today and we fight and stop, the money is not going to come again. But if we fight or we argue for that particular money and we trust it, we let it go, money will come again because the brand is there for money. We don't interfere in anybody's private affair. And the fact that we can have issues because of Keche, but we find ourselves moving because Keche has called us again.
Time now for international news.
U.S. President Donald Trump hosted the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday to sign a deal that the U.S. leader has hailed as his latest peace triumph despite ongoing violence on the ground. Trump welcomed Paul Kagame, the longtime president of Rwanda, whose allies have taken a decisive edge on the ground against his country's turbulent neighbor and Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi at the White House. Both leaders proceeded to the newly renamed Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace in Washington to sign a peace accord more than 5 months after the country's foreign ministers also met Trump and announced another deal to end the conflict. Trump hopes the agreement will pave the way for the United States to gain access to critical minerals in eastern DRC, a violence-torn region that has reserves of many of the key ingredients in modern technologies such as electric cars.
And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you so much for watching. I am Martin Asiedu Date.
And I am Portia Gabodu. Join Alfredo Cancer at 10 p.m. for Ghana Tonight. Good evening.